what we talked about earlier, which is the capital structure. Like we see, and I laugh about this all the time, we see wonderful businesses that have just god awful capital structures that you just can't lend to. And then, even though I hate to say this, sometimes we see businesses that everybody looks around at each other and are like, it's a decent business. We don't think we're going to lose money, but the capital structure that you apply to it makes it a home run deal. So you probably aren't investing equity alongside that because our company, we are the lender, but we also do equity alongside the sponsor, to maybe to the tune of 5 to 10% of the company. But we don't do it in every deal. And this comes down to exactly some businesses are great businesses and we get the structure that we require: low leverage, low loan to value, strong covenants, and we put equity alongside it and we've made some large gains. In other companies we look at, we have a business, a thrift shop, which sounds, like that can't be a good business. It's a great business. It's a C plus business. It had the same revenue and EBITDA for the last 10 years. It's not looking to refinance. It's a nice spread, and it's cyclical to some degree, but it's also counter cyclical. It has somewhat of ebbs and flows, but for the most part, sadly, that it has a place in society. And so it's a C plus credit. We didn't put equity to work because we don't see the equity story, but it's certainly, I would be sad to see it go.
So when you're evaluating companies, kind of dovetailing in the previous conversation we had about the future, how do you evaluate past performance with future viability, and what wins out in that debate?
Yeah. When I talked about on the downside modeling, that's sort of pie in the sky in worst case. So most companies don't fall off a cliff, right? Like that. So the companies that we've seen that have had issues in the past, so an industry that we've done, let's say we've done 5 deals in the same industry, part of our evaluation is to understand what went wrong. And quite frankly, it's not always the same drivers today of what happened in the past that went wrong, but those are the evaluations. And then you're dealing with industry experts. We have these things called GLG reports. We essentially speak to a voice of the customer or a CEO of a business of a similar that we're purchasing on a no names basis. And so we're doing our own underwrite on what we think could go wrong, what we think that the mitigants are, what the strengths are, and then we're verifying it against people that are already in the space, doing obviously desktop research, and then comparing it to what we've seen in the past. So I think we do all of those at the same time, kind of gives you a 360 perspective of whether we think that the risk is something that we can withstand.
What the borrower themselves, like the individual person or persons, like how do you evaluate those individuals? Because obviously, when you're investing into a company, the founders, I mean, that's their character. There's a lot of belief there.
Yes.
So on the credit side, is it all ones and zeros on the paper, or do you take into account of the personality as well?